Hi, welcome back to the garage. I'm Andy, and I'm preparing to move off grid. Was hoping to do a video testing my solar system this week, but I'm still top balancing this older battery I have, this sock battery. And it's a slow process. I don't have a balance charger, so I'm using a little 1 amp lithium charger. So it's a slow up and down process. So it's coming around. It's going to be a great battery again. I'm just not quite getting the top end yet, but it keeps getting closer and closer. But I thought I'd do a video about what it costs to move off grid nowadays, because I see a lot of stuff online about, I mean, I'm more concerned with like what it costs a budget-minded person, a poor person, to move off grid in 2025, and not so much like these people. Well, you're going to need a well. You better have the water test. Well, I'm hauling my water. Drilling a well isn't in the cards for me anyway. So, when they, of course, they're going to tell you why you need to have a well. Well, I'm going to be hauling water. I don't know what to tell you. And catching rainwater. It's not going to happen if I need a well, right? There's too much money in it. But really, I don't think it costs that much. It's more, to me, about the preparation. And I've done similar things a couple times in my life, and I've done it both ways. So, like, back when I was a kid and I first took off for Key West, I didn't have anything in place. I don't think I even had $1,000 in my pocket, but I don't think you need a lot of money. But like the next time I went to South Padre from the Midwest, and I did some planning up front. So I bought a $3,500 sailboat and paid it off, and a $6,000 Oldsmobile Bravado, and I paid those off over about a 2-year period, and then took off. I think I had just under $1,500 and towed that thing, which that vehicle had no business towing that. It had no trailer brakes. I towed it all the way to South Padre Island, about 1,600 miles. And I mean, I made it with one brake light, no blinkers. It was crazy. But I mean, the planning I did up front, it gave me a place to live. It was hot. I didn't really think that through very well, but but one thing I've learned, and then the very last time I did it, when I moved onto a boat in the Great Lakes, it was just for a long summer. That was basically 3 months. But one of the things I did there was I prepared for like 2 years. I sold my truck and bought a minivan because I knew I could deck it out to sleep in it. So, and at that point, I wasn't even sure. There's no way I could have saved like, $12,000, $15,000. That's not something I've ever really been able to do. But I had this vehicle. It was for my little company, and it was going to be paid off, and I didn't need it anymore. So rather than selling it, I thought, well, I'll just wait the 2 years, and if I can just keep making those payments, I'll have that money in the bank. It's not the smart way of doing it, but it worked. And then over those 2 years, I built my first little solar system, 350 watts with this one sock battery. And I built that at home like I'm doing now before I even went. And it was important because it gave me a way to live outside of like hotels or apartments or anything. I could live in the minivan, and I was buying the boat sight unseen because I couldn't afford a trip up there and back. It was a waste of too much money. But I mean, I knew boats pretty well, so I was pretty confident. And I bought the systems that knew the boat was going to need to go cruising and live aboard. I needed a big honky anchor so I could, live at anchor for free. and not have to pay for marinas. And that all worked out great. So I learned a lot from doing that. And that's what I'm doing now is I'm going to have to finance my land because it's taken me long enough to get out of debt. I'm 57. I'm not waiting till I save enough to pay for my land. Chances are I'd never get there anyway. But what I am going to do is get totally 100% out of debt. So when I go to my land, my only bills will be a small land payment, and they only require a small down payment. I'm going to try to do a little better than that. But I mean, for somebody that just bare bones wants to go live off grid, I think one of the more important things, well, there's a few things, but the land that you look at, for instance, it's going to be important for a person in that situation to be able to go somewhere, buy the land, get on the land, and actually stay there because they need a place to live. You know, they're homeless basically. So if I was telling somebody, and I'm not qualified to give advice on it, but if I was telling somebody, I would tell them, look, buy a vehicle you can sleep in, and pay it off. If you need to finance your land, that's fine. And most people need internet. You might need it just to have a phone connection. And you're gonna need a job. You still need money. So, but if you set it up right, a part-time job will pay everything. So that's kind of the key to it, is you're lowering your bills, not trying to make more money to do more, you know. You're lowering this side instead of raising this side. So, I mean, you can work part-time and pay a land payment like Starlink internet, some car insurance, and some health insurance. And then you have your living expenses. But a part-time job would cover all of that. But you eventually want to build too. And you can buy a camper. I mean, I don't think that's a bad idea. Buy an old camper. You'll probably need to put a tarp over the roof because the roofs go so fast. For me, I don't want that. I've had some experience with small travel trailers and stuff, and to me, it's just be bringing a big piece of junk into my property that I have to get rid of later somehow. And plus, I think I can build a small, like 200 square foot place for less than I can buy an old junk camper for. And if I have a vehicle I can sleep in, I mean, my plan, for instance, is I'm going to go to the land. I'm not going to have a bunch of money in my savings account, but I'm going to be debt free. I do have the advantage of having a little business that brings me, you know, maybe $1,500, $1,800 a month. So I kind of have my part-time job. So, I mean, I realize most people probably don't have that. But you can get the same funds from a part-time job. It's not that much money, you know. And you can't be too good to do things either. Like, I mean, I would have no problem working at a fast food place or something like that. I would just do what I had to do. I mean, to me, I'm living my dream, so it doesn't matter what I do for work part-time. Eventually, I'd like to get into, because I'm going to have to work, I'd like to get into just working seasonally and doing something that's like more fun, you know, like I wouldn't mind doing, you can do those things when you don't have to worry about how much money you're making, you know, per hour, and is it, you know, am I going to advance and am I going to make more and more money? And, you know, I would like to do like trail cleanup, those kind of things, you know, some seasonal stuff like that, and then spend the rest of the time on my property. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, you get your bills down so much that you can work part-time and cover everything. And then, of course, you want to work on making a little more so you can start buying some wood. I mean, I want to go with a little bit of savings, and I would advise that. I mean, you can buy land for, I see, $99 down and pretty small payments too. I'm sure the rates, you know, aren't very good, but if you can save a little bit though, put a little bit down on your land and have a little bit in your pocket for that first structure, you know. But it doesn't take much, I don't think. you're going to have your living expenses. You're going to have propane instead of your electric bill and stuff like that. And I would definitely build your solar system first, because they're kind of pricey, and that's not anything that's going to give you shelter or anything like that. So if you're doing it on your property, you can get by with a generator for a while, and there'd be nothing wrong with that. But then you're going to have to come back to that solar and spend that money, and it's kind of a bigger expense. So it'd be a good thing to get out of the way. That way, when you get on your property and you're living out of your vehicle, I would also have like one of those canopies, maybe screened in, just for an outside area to keep tools and everything. One of the things I worry about on my property is like the initial couple months when I don't have like real good secure areas to keep things. I'm gonna have to be loading a bunch of tools into my vehicle every time I go to work, you know, and deciding what I should leave out and those kind of things. But, you know, it'd be nice to get a container or something on the property, but you know, that's a few $1,000s too. I mean, just bare bones. If you know, if you're like wanting to get on a piece of land and live there, I would say pay off a vehicle you can live out of for a period of time. Switch your internet to Starlink. Get a cheapest phone plan as you can. You got to pay off all your debt. You can't carry any of that with you. And, you know, go buy your property, start making payments on it, and then go there when you're ready and just stay on the property. You can start applying for jobs before you get there, you know. It'd be nice to do 2 trips back and forth. Gets pretty pricey though when you're going like me. I'm going to be going from here. I'm in deep southeast Texas, right along. I'm about 12 miles from the border. So I'm going to be going, I don't know, 13 to 1,600 miles. So for me to go back and forth, you know, I wouldn't mind going out, getting a P.O. box and stuff. That way I could come look at land, maybe buy something, then come back and get my stuff and go back. Because then when I'm back here, I could apply for some jobs up in that area and stuff like that. But I don't know, if I plan it well and I can do it all in one fell swoop, I think that's a lot better for the budget. But yeah, I think it can be done for minimal amount. It's just, you have to plan. And probably, I mean, I planned my Great Lakes trip for 2 years. I was able to just keep paying on that vehicle and pay it off over those 2 years. And then every time I would get a chunk of money, I would order like my Mantis anchor. I remember it was like $600. So I ordered that anchor when I could. And I ordered an AIS tracker so ships would see me on their radar, kind of. Just different things for the boat. You know, I was building my solar system out, so I was buying that stuff just little bits at a time. And at the same time, I was trying to get out of debt. I wasn't quite there during the Great Lakes trip, because what I did with that is I had 2 years to plan, and I knew it was a temporary trip. It wasn't a permanent move. So I knew that rather than trying to save a bunch of money, for me, the method that was going to work for me is over 2 years, I would just have to get at least 3 months ahead on all my bills, so that I knew I could leave for that whole summer. And I mean, that's a way of doing things too, but you can prepare ahead of time, and walking around with that secret, knowing you're going to do this thing, kind of it'll give you a lot of motivation to keep going. You know, get that vehicle paid off, get that solar system built in your living room or wherever you're doing it, and you know, get those systems in place ahead of time. Get your Starlink bought, start that service up, you know. One thing I'd say on buying land though, I wouldn't buy just off of price, and don't pay any attention to these videos that say like the best state for off-grid living and stuff, because the state makes a small amount of rules, but it's the county that makes the rules. So when you find a piece of land, the best thing you can do is just call that county, the building department. Ask if you can talk to somebody. You're looking at a piece of land and you're wondering what the permitting process and everything is like as far as building it out. And they'll eventually contact you with somebody, or they'll call you back. I've only done it, maybe a half a dozen times over the last 10 years. But it does work for the most part. I had a couple kind of cold receptions, like they instantly think you're a bum because you're living off grid, and you kind of get that feel from them, and they're not going to help you. But for the most part, the people are really helpful. And I really honest with them, and I just lay it out there, and I tell them, this is what I'd like to do. Can it be done there in that county, or what would I have to do that would be different? And there's usually some things, because I'll lay it out. I mean, I tell them I want to build. I don't want to have to get permits for my buildings. I want to build what I want, how I want. I want to use composting for my toilet. I want to haul in my water, do rain catchment. I just lay it all out there. And usually the big hang up is whether I could do composting or not. And sometimes it's permitting. I ran into one spot in Colorado that was great. I was going to buy 2 lots. At the time, that was before COVID, they were $2,500 a piece. And they were like 2.5 acres, but they butted up against each other in the mountains. It was beautiful. But the thing about it, you can only have one structure, which I thought, what? One living structure. So I couldn't make like a guest cabin, they told me. And it would have to be attached to the main building. I mean, it was like city rules. And then it did have to be permitted. It wasn't too stringent, the permitting process, but it was 600 square foot minimum, which I don't want to build 600 square feet. But I thought, that's not too much of a stretch. Maybe I could go to 600 square feet. They required a septic, and it just kind of added up to where, because there's some things I would get around, For instance, if they said, you have to have a septic system. Well, I know in Arizona, and some of the, you can do that DIY septic system, which is great, which is why I'm looking at a lot of spots in the high desert right now. But a septic might not be the end of the world if it can be done reasonably. And the big caveat for that would be, can I stay on my property? Can I camp on my property long term while I'm building, putting in my septic and all these things? Because if I can't do that, then it kind of rules it out immediately, But I'll jump through some hoops, but it's best to just lay it out, kind of worst case scenario, so you get their honest feedback and and I wouldn't count that as gospel either. I mean, this stuff's all written down, so you want to double check that, I think, before your final purchase. But it's a good way to not waste too much time on a property, and especially if you're going and looking. I mean, you don't want to drive and look and then say, well, I can't even build there, So I would say call the county on any property you're looking at. But I found a couple, mainly in, there's a county in New Mexico, I'm trying to find it, Cibola County, and I can't get a hold of them, and they're not calling me back. I really like the prices and the environment, how the woods are. I'm not a huge fan of desert. I don't dislike it completely. I mean, I saw, Frugal OffGrid Living. He has a place that looks like an old western town, and I think that's cool. Homestead, I mean, and it's just desert, So I don't know. And if I'm forced into that, then that's what I'm going to be doing. So, I mean, ideally, I'd like to be up. There's a property I'm looking at right now in that Cibola. I think it's Cibola. I might be tearing that up. County in New Mexico by Rama and Grants. And I've been through that area. I like it. This place is at like 7,700 foot elevation, and just tall pines, tall straight pines, and that clear ground, you can walk under them, you know. That's kind of the ideal situation. And I think it was, I don't want to say, I can't remember, it was 5 or 11 acres. But it was also at the kind of very top end of my price range. I mean, they wanted $28,500 for it. And they'll do financing, but I don't know. I'm really looking more towards that $15,000 range. But you can definitely go to a property, you know, put a small amount of money down, secure the property. You're going to be making payments. And then if you have your systems in place to live, then you can go there and live on the property. Just check with the county, make sure that's allowed. And then from there, start working and start building, you know. It really isn't more complicated than that. I mean, I think it's more complicated than just food, shelter, water. I mean, it's not a survival situation, so it's more complicated than that, but it's basically the same. I mean, as long as you have a secure place to sleep. I'm trying to put out weekly videos. They say you got to be consistent on YouTube. So, I don't know. I thought I'd put out a video, just talk about, you know, in 2025, it's actually very affordable for a poor person to move off grid. Start planning and start doing little things. I mean, this week, for instance, I'm saving for my batteries right now. So I don't have any money to spend. So I was hoping, though, I can do a video. I can't build anything, but I can do a video of testing this, but it didn't come together in time. But, you know, there's always things you can do. And I have some scrap wood, so I don't know if you can see it. This is what I did this week. Just because I couldn't do anything else. But there's always something I can do. My only requirement is it has to be for the cabin. So I made a carved out a spatula for the cabin. Sorry about that light. But yeah, it was fun. And it's for the cabin. Gives me some experience. I mean, I wish I would have done more of an angle, but it's the first one I've ever done. And I got to do something. I tore out a knot up here in the handle. So I had this knot here. It was scrap wood, and I wanted the grain to be straight, so I had to incorporate a knot. I didn't have enough wood otherwise. So I chose that one, but when I was chiseling the back down, I ripped it out. So I epoxied it in. I've never done that before. Put a little bit of epoxy in the wood and filled that space. I wish I would have chiseled it out into like a star design or something first, but you know, it's just sloppy, you know. But it's got character, and I'm the only one that's ever going to use it. I'm not going to sell it, so I gotta grab some food safe finish for it. But that's what there's always little things you can do to move the ball forward, you know. And I get bored and just do whatever too sometimes, as long as it doesn't cost me money. I mean, just to keep my mind in that frame of mind. I mean, I'll carve out little things and stuff. I don't know why, but just keeps me busy and keeps me moving towards the goal, the overall goal. I was hoping to go in September and look at some property, but I don't know if that's going to be in the cards. I might just have to wait and get all my ducks in a row. I just recently got out of debt completely, except for I still had my truck, and initially I was going to hang on to the truck, but I still had like 3 years payments left on it. And I was kind of at a sort of break-even point, so I just sold it. So right now I'm shopping around. I got to find like a $6,000 truck, probably. The only thing is, if it's a truck, I want a camper on the back. So beggars can't be choosers, though. I'm looking at Honda Pilots, like even the Subaru Outback. vehicles I can sleep in that are all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. I like the little Ford Rangers, the four-wheel drive ones, if they have a camper topper. Something like that. But I got to get that, and I got to get my batteries for this solar system before I can really get serious and get out there looking at land. So since I couldn't do a video testing my batteries this week, I just thought I'd do one about the affordability of it all, and that it's still very possible in 2025. I wouldn't let any internet troll tell you otherwise. I mean, just do the math. You can definitely do it. Just start planning, start doing little things. Make something for your cabin this week, and then next week plan something else, you know, and just get the ball moving forward. I think there's a lot of hopelessness in the world right now, and for people that think that they cannot achieve moving off grid or anything, I mean, I'm living proof that any idiot can do it. And it really doesn't take that much. Just start planning today. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a good day.